we have people from all over the world. America is supposed to be AKA the melting pot, right?
Supposedly.
Then you had people either try to say Michelle Obama and Barack were not, in a true relationship.
Right.
Then you have them say that maybe the kids aren't really his, or or something like that, or did he have outside kids or something like that. You didn't hear that with Trump, but also Trump owned it. Yeah, I got a bunch of kids. I had three different wives. He brings all his kids around, but no one said anything about it. Now, if that was a black man, and I'm just speaking from a black man's perspective as a politician, right, running for office, every little thing you do, you say, the way you look, is under a microscope.
This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Well, Kobe, we've had several things that is on our agenda. Most of it is national, but we definitely got to get a little update for our people. We know that they voted no confidence for our chief of police, and I know they given him some time. Can you just tell us, are there any updates or anything with that?
Yeah, no, so there hasn't really been any updates, so to say, from the police department. Like I said last week, the FOP has come out in support of Chief Tracy, so has the mayor. There is a petition. There's 2 petitions going around, one supporting the vote of no confidence and the other supporting Chief Tracy. Again, the actual vote in the resolution called for to give him 90 days to really address some of the issues, and also look at how they can craft a plan to show that they are going to take steps to changing the diversity metrics as well as their recruitment plan to bring on more diverse officers that look like the city they're supposed to be protecting.
Okay, so if he does not produce such a plan, I know that you said the mayor came out and supported him, and so did the FOP. But if by some chance he doesn't produce a document or whatever plans that he has that is satisfying to the council, is there any other further actions that can be taken?
So based on statements put out by the press release put out by City Council, they will look at other options that they can take. Again, Council President Congo reiterated he does not want Chief Tracy fired. He just wants the leadership to understand that the council is not happy with the current situation and morale of our police department.
All right, I'll leave that until we get to that part of when the 90 days are up, and then we'll give some opinion. I'll give some opinion on even that statement. But also, I saw something in the news this week that threw me off. Maybe because I'm in a tunnel somewhere. The Proud Boys, there were some text messages that have been handed over regarding the January 6th with some Proud Boys here in Delaware. We got Proud Boys here?
Yeah, so technically the chapter is the Philadelphia chapter, but it covers our region. It's like the Philadelphia metro area. They have been here. They've been on campaigns here in Delaware, especially during 2020. They protested against then former Vice President Biden at his house. And then following that, they were involved with an incident with Republican Senate candidate Laura Whiskey, where there was protesters and counter-protesters, and one Proud Boy who was with her pulled out a gun, waved it, branded it at the counter-protesters, and the AG ended up charging him for that. He put it back in his pocket after a while, and then left. And the state police came. They didn't take a report initially. There was a lot of issue there. Then they finally took it a week later.
Yeah, this is really shocking.
But this case here, we all witnessed what happened on January 6, 2021. And we knew there was people from Delaware who were a part of that. And so far, 5 people have been charged federally for their partaking in that, including the picture that went viral. The first time ever the Confederate flag was in the White House was a Delaware man carrying it from Sussex.
Wow.
And then now we have the former leader of the Philadelphia Proud Boys was actually a Newcastle County resident. So between these exchanged these text messages, the FBI have charged 5 individuals for their leadership in partaking in the actions that took place on January 6th.
Wow, this is really interesting. Trump is going to go down in history to always be known. He's going to be known forever because I was in the chiropractor. I won't say the name because I don't want nobody to get in trouble. And a gentleman came in with a Trump mask on, and boy, I forgot that you're not supposed to look at people hard. You're not supposed, and he just messed with my spirit. He didn't do anything wrong, but he was wearing the wrong mask. I don't know, but it's interesting to know that we do have people here, and I think that we all need to be mindful of that when we're interacting, with the society in which we live in. I want to move it a little bit further to this Omicron variant. I'm so grateful to God that it has reached its peak here in Delaware, where we're not as it's not as contagious as it was because it's starting to die down. But we're having some serious issues with people getting their booster and some even getting their shots. Are you hearing the same thing?
Yeah, so, Dr. Rattay, who is the director of the state public health, kind of pointed out that, one, the rate of new cases are down, the rate of positive tests are down, and also the hospitalization has decreased. So that means we're getting over that peak. We're on the right side of it. We want to be trending downwards, which is good, but we're still dealing with it, right? And she pointed to the best way to make sure all those numbers stay down, all those percentages stay down, is make sure you get your booster shot. I got mine's January. I know a lot of people have been getting it. It's relatively easy to get them now. If you want to go up to Claymont, at the Claymont Community Center every Wednesday, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. They have all 3 boosters, first shot and second shot. So whatever you need, they have it for you. The National Guard's there. And I think I was there maybe all of 5-10 minutes before they got me the shot. I sat for 15 minutes and I was good.
Good. And one of the things that we can now say, we could not say this before, is that even though there are people who may have had the shot and caught the Omicron variant, no hospitalization for real, no death for real. That all of those persons who found themselves in the hospital, about 98% of them, they were people who had not gotten the vaccination at all. I personally happen to know a couple of people who did not get the vaccination, but they did get sick this time, and one can't even walk right now, and it's really sad because some people are just refused. I had to have, and you may not believe this, Brother Kobe, but I had to really do at our church to do a presentation on it not being the what do you call it, not the beast, but the market of the beast, because there are people they use it for spiritual reasons for why they won't do it. They do it because they are against anti-vaxxing, and a lot of them got a lot of other vaccinations. I just don't understand. And then some say because Trump was in office and they didn't want it. But let me be honest with you. You said you got yours in January. I got my 3rd shot in December, and I'm going to continue to follow through, and it has worked well for me.
And see, here's the thing, right? So there is a very strong misinformation campaign going on about the vaccine. What most people don't realize is to go to school as a child, you had to get vaccinated.
That's right.
There's still, for the children now, they have to have proof of vaccination to be in schools. So the vast majority of us have had vaccinations before. So, that kind of argument, I've never had a vaccination, that's usually not true, right? And you maybe just forgot that you had to have it when you were younger, whether it's polio, chicken pox, whatever it may have been, right? But also, if you look at it, even though we're over the hump, even though the numbers are trending down, we still have more people hospitalized than we did a year ago.
Absolutely.
We still have more cases than we did a year ago. And what people aren't understanding is just because your case, you believe, oh, well, I had a friend and it wasn't so severe for them, I'll be good. I don't need to get the vaccine.
Right.
But they had a vaccine. We're about the same age, same body make. No, that's not how it works.
Right.
It affects everyone a little different.
Right.
And what we want to do is make sure we're protected enough so that we don't get to the point where we have to go to the hospital if you do test positive.
Absolutely.
Because that's when things get really severe.
Now, have you all applied for your free home testing through the government?
Yes, I applied for the home testing for both me, my mother, and my grandmother.
All right. Now, did they come in yet?
Not yet.
It was weird because several of the people in the office got theirs, and we didn't get ours. I said, I don't know whether they just don't like my zip code or not, but it's good to know there's one more person who didn't get theirs.
No, my neighbor, she lives on the corner of my block. She asked me how to do it, right? And I said, oh, I'll come over, and I showed her and everything, put her email in. And this was maybe about 3 days after I did mine. She called me Sunday and said, hey, I got my test. I said, how? So, still, we're still dealing with the fact that the UPS and the mailing services are all backed up right now. So hopefully, I'll be receiving mine within the next few days.
Yes, and we also want to hope and ask that you all, when you receive those tests, certainly if you're feeling bad or you don't feel so good, take the test. Let's help protect each other. We want to come out of this. I'm not used to having a full church on Sunday mornings. I'm not used to the saints being this sick as well as those who may not be churched. I want to see us back to normal where I can see the smiling faces that we are so used to seeing. And this coronavirus have really set us back almost 3 years, but we can rebound. This is the opportunity. Kobe just shared about we still having more cases than we had last year. It means something. We must make sure that we are taking care of ourselves now. Now that we saw how contagious this was, it wasn't as lethal, but now that we see how contagious it was, let us take it serious. Right. Okay? So, Kobe, the last thing I want to do in this segment today is I want to talk about the juveniles with these bomb threats to the HBCUs. I am a product, you can't say that with me, but I am a product of an HBCU. And 19 or 20 different universities, HBCUs, which is historically black colleges, receive bomb threats. And it all centers around this Black History Month. Before we say anything else about it, let me just let them see this reporting from CNN.
Ron, what more are we learning on this?
Well, a senior law enforcement official is telling us that the FBI has identified 6 persons of interest in this matter. They're all juveniles, they're all very tech savvy, and they've been disguising how they are making these calls, more than 20 now over the past month or so, to HBCUs across the country. And they appear to have a racist motive, this official is saying, which perhaps is obvious because a lot of these calls happened yesterday and the day before on the eve and at the start of Black History Month. Again, they're persons of interest. They're not suspects yet, so it's unclear how far the case against them or if there's going to be an arrest anytime soon. This is still developing. But I can tell you from talking to a lot of students and administrators at these schools yesterday, they are going to be pleased to see that the FBI is making some progress. There's a lot of concern that they want to see the federal government step up and try to solve this problem. To some, it's been a distraction, but it's also a huge threat. Some see it as an act of domestic terrorism because these threats have only targeted HBCUs right at the start of Black History Month. Yasmin?
Ron Allen Forrest. Thank you, Ron, for bringing that to us.
It's just mesmerizes me to know that there's such hate in the community in which we live in. People are finding ways because they're so tech savvy or whatever else to be able to throw out these threats. But what I do like is one thing that the president at Howard University shared is that we as a people have been through way worse than that, and we've survived. We will survive. We are thick-skinned people. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and Howard was the first to issue a a shelter-in-place order for their schools. And on Monday, Del State also sent out an alert to their staff, their students, that that they have received a threat and please be safe.
Right.
So this was the beginning of Black History Month. That this started, and I don't really care what the CNN reporters were saying. This is racially motivated, 100%.
Most definitely.
It should be charged as a hate crime.
Yes.
And they should be prosecuted that way. But this is the America we're living in now, where racism and white supremacy is just so openly accepted right now. It's almost like it's back in the 60s. And was I alive back then? No. But it seems as though some people did not understand their history, because those who fail to know their history are deemed to repeat it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, this is like where we're going as America, and it's sad. But it's not shocking whatsoever.
Yeah, I want to add to that. Not only must this be charged as a hate crime, but I want them to stop putting the headline juveniles. They knew what they were doing. They need to be charged as adults.
Right.
They need to spend the rest of their lives in jail thinking about what they did. And even if it was a prank, it was a prank that went too far. And I think, and definitely, it's just not good. It's not healthy. What are we going to do with racism? We've always had to experience it, but what is... I was born in the last part of the 60s, okay? And I didn't get a chance to do the marches with King and all that good stuff, but we're living in a time when it's like we're hated as a people.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was speaking to a group of students not too long ago, and one student, these are college students, and one student countered something I said and said, but racism really didn't get bad until President Obama was elected. And I said, what do you mean by that? They were like, well, I never noticed it. Now, this is a white student saying this. I never noticed it until President Obama got in and he pushed policies that only benefited the black community.
Okay.
So I said, okay, what policies only benefited the black community?
Right.
Well, he goes and says, oh, well, his Obamacare was only for black people. The Obama phone was only for black people. And I said, let me stop you there. Statistically, in overall just data numbers, white Americans benefited from that at a higher rate than black people.
That's right.
But because you listen to the narrative on Fox News, listen to people like Alex Jones, you believe it's the exact opposite.
Right.
There are a ton of low-income, poor, low-class white people who needed health care in America.
That's right.
When that passed.
Right.
It still is today.
Absolutely.
And you look at it, that the GOP has done a good job at keeping us separate. Because right before Dr. King was murdered, assassinated, he has switched his talking, his thinking to not just about education and voting, but we need economic justice.
Yes.
And he formed the Poor People's Campaign. When Dr. King was killed, he was not the most loved person anymore.
And not even by whites, but blacks too. But
Right.
Go ahead.
People said he was doing too much.
Yes.
They, you did what you needed to do, now you're good. He was focusing on bringing poor black folk and poor white folk together. Why? Because if we unite, because we share more in common than we do different.
Absolutely.
If we unite, that's how you get change.
Absolutely.
And people were scared of that.
Yeah.
And that is what's going on in America right now.
Yeah.
We don't have that unity.
Yeah.
And people like Donald Trump, like Fox News, to get views and likes and retweets. They play on people's fear.
That's right.
So that's why, because we have new technologies, because I could see a racist teacher in Washington State in a heartbeat now, I couldn't back in the 60s.
Right.
That's why some people think racism is even worse now, but it's still the very same. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And that's the sad point.
And beyond sad, that is just horrible. It's egregious. And, you know, as we are now in Black History Month, I'm going to spend a lot of time in the pulpit talking to our people about the fact that we have to make sure that we don't look at Black History Month as something, even though every day we live the Black experience.
Right.
But people need to know our history, our roots. They need to understand that we have struggled from day one. We never asked to come to this country.
Right.
Thank the Lord we're here. I'm enjoying my life as an American, a Black African American. So nobody won't send me a letter or whatever till I will get out of the country. We built this country, the house that we call the most powerful house in the country, which is the White House, was built by slaves. With free labor. We need to understand the creativity that we've had, the struggle that we had to continue to go through. And when I hear what's going on with the HBCUs, when I hear what's going on with these Proud Boys, when I hear a senator say if it would have been the Motifa, Antifa, I said Motifa, Antifa, if it would have been the Antifa, I would have been afraid. It just speaks volumes to the fact that we are a feared people and a hated people.
Yes.
And that's a dangerous combination.
It is.
So I don't know, but when we come back, we're going to have a conversation because something happened with Whoopi Goldberg, and I have a couple comments I want to make. So we're going to be right back in just a minute. And we're back. Well, this week, Whoopi Goldberg, she made some comments that the Jewish community is very, very upset about. And even though they have forgiven her, there were several things that happened. I just want you to take a look at the reporting on this.
During a segment on The View today discussing the banning of the book Mouse, the co-host Whoopi Goldberg made some ill-informed comments about the Jewish people and the Holocaust. Listen to this.
If you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
Ethnicity.
No, it's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's
Well,
about
but
going
it's not-
after
it's
Jews
not about
and
ideal race.
gypsies
It's-
and
but these are two
Romas.
white groups of people.
Well,
How
that
do
was after black
They
people
didn't see
too.
them as white
And they were
But
after
you're missing the
homosexuals.
point. You're
Yeah.
missing the point.
Yeah.
The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other.
And while you had an opportunity to see the reporting on with Whoopi Goldberg, and I'm one of the people who really do like her, I think she's done a very good job with able to keep her Afrocentric look and everything else and do very well in a European society. I understood what she was saying, but this is the problem that we're facing in the culture that we live in today. If you don't say it the right way, or the way that is accepted by the culture that we live in, then what end up happening is you get criticized, you get fired, you get suspended. And I'm one of those individuals who believe very clearly that, you know, how we treat each other does matter. And that was her point. Now, it was a race issue too. I agree, it was. But for it to be such an outcry to the level that it was, it concerned me. So, Kobe, I can just turn to you and say, you know, is there any thoughts that you have on that whole situation?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to this subject, you have to look at the broader conversation that has been taking place over the years. And one of those is the philosophy behind racism on a global scale, right?
Okay.
So the philosophy contributes a person or a group's character to their abilities, to their appearance, their intelligence, and the behavior of their race, right? We all know in Nazi Germany, they viewed themselves as superior, right? And they viewed those who were not that pure blood as inferior, including the Jewish community.
Right.
And one of the things with that was they believed that they were put on this earth to dominate.
Right.
Right? That they were the natural born leaders. And they used that philosophy to kind of push the narrative that it really didn't matter, if you weren't, it didn't matter if you weren't pure blood. That all, well, let me take that back.
You had to be.
Yeah, you had to be
Right.
pure blood.
Right.
And if you weren't, it didn't matter. You were inferior.
That's right.
So I think that's the philosophy people, if you look at it on a global scale, you have to understand that part of it and that part of the debate as well, too. And then you look at how it's been modified to fit into the racism here in America that we were just talking about, right? And then you look at what keeps happening. So we've seen black celebrities get in trouble for this time and time again,
Absolutely.
right? And I think people are looking at their own lived experiences versus what else went on. And like I just said, with the poor black folk and the poor white folk, there's still unique instances of racism that both Jewish people and black people have faced.
Right.
And it shouldn't be, well, this over that, that over this.
Absolutely.
We should be able to kind of resonate with the struggle that each side has taken on and has overcome over the years.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm very much there. I think where I am stuck, and I'm not going to put you with no one else in a bond, but where I'm stuck at is this cancel culture that if you don't do it a certain way, then you are labeled. Now, I heard you. In the broader perspective, it was a race issue, and I am not going to deny that. But if you heard what she said, and we did play it, she was saying it's how we treat each other. They treated the Jews as if they were second-class citizens. They treated the Jews as if they weren't worth living. It's the matter of how they were treated. It was a race issue too now.
Yeah, I think, and I think she made the statement that it should have been both.
Yeah.
She should have said it was both, which
right,
is
okay.
true, right?
Okay.
And again, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but we have Nazis who are literally marching in the street saying "Hell Hitler" still in America, and they even crossed the border into Canada to march over there recently as well too. But this thinking from the Nazis, right, was to take that racism, politicize it, and sharpen it, and put it into practice. And I think that's what people need to realize, and that it's coming back stronger than ever, right? We're in a point where at one point we thought we can use that same model of how to overcome racism for other races as well too, but yet now, again, because of these last, I'll say 5-6 years, this white supremacy notion, this open racism notion has been able to really grow in America.
Yeah.
It shows that we still have a lot of work to do. And it starts by those who want to fight against it, by sitting down and understanding where each of us have come and what struggle we have come from.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I just started thinking about the fact that we are now celebrating Black History Month. But when we had very little, we were more united than we are now with so much. What do you mean by that, Pastor Curry? When we weren't as educated, gone to all the universities, getting all the degrees, the PhDs, the MDs, the all kind of degrees. When we were more together. We did not accept a certain culture, philosophy of life. And just for those of you who are watching, it's bridging me into somewhere, so don't think I'm all over the place. But for those of you who are watching us, I just want to say to you that I'm not forgetting about our silent storm. I'm using this segment to try to deal with a little bit of Black history as well as some other issues that are going on in our community. But we're going to come right back within a couple of weeks to our silent storm because we still have some report cards to finish up. But I watch, for example, what's going on with black men. Now, the sad reality for today is that it's 2 black men on the set. I'm hoping to have someone else to come on and we can get another perspective in, because I don't ever want to be a misogynist. I don't ever want to be a person who is viewed rightfully that I'm a person against women in any kind of way, because I'm not. But affirmative action is where I want to start at on this segment. And the purpose for the bill was to give equal access to those who were marginalized, those black folks, you know. But when you look at the results of affirmative action, what I've discovered is that white women and black women benefited. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that because being an African-American male who come from the projects, who didn't have dad in the house with him, I had to work hard for wherever I got in life. And I'm all right with that. But I am not all right with this culture. And it seems like I was told by one of my friends that I'm getting too possessed with this cancel culture group. I'm not against them, because some of the things that they stand for I am definitely with, but I'm becoming more and more angered when we use things like, we forget about things like affirmative action, where it was supposed to bring access to black people. One portion of the black people did benefit from it, but white women benefited from it. Black men were still marginalized. What voice have been out there to make sure that we raise that very loudly?
Yeah, I think one, first off, with affirmative action, it has been beneficial to a lot, right? And I'm just going to use this example right now. People will always find a workaround no matter what.
Okay.
Let's use the NFL and black head coaches.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Right now.
Right? The Rooney Rule was introduced in 2003. It's 2022, 19 years later, right? And they still found a way to kind of work around that by not having the even footing. Where they just bring in a black candidate even though they already selected their head coach, but to meet that quota that they have to. That has happened with affirmative action in some incidents, right? Now, do I think we need to say it's black men versus black women? Absolutely not. I think, one, we have to start lifting each other up. Regardless of who gets to the next step first, make sure you reach back and say, come on, brother, come on, sister, come on, neighbor, and join us in the next step. And I think we as a community, as a culture, have to come together better and get on the same footing. Because as long as we're divided, we are failing.
And I'll agree with you on your first one, and I'm going to disagree with you on your prior.
Okay.
And that's the good thing about our show. We don't have to be of the same mind. I am agreeing with you. We do have to come together. We have to come together, and we have to become one mind to be able to survive. But is it an issue of black men against black women? What I've been seeing, especially even nationally, but here locally, I think it is. My opinion, I think that people don't know the difference. Some people, in the Bible it says to Paul, so Paul, a little learning have made you mad. Some people get a little learning, they have an opinion that is so strong, they accept the majority culture, and then they use it against some black men. It mesmerizes me to know that 34% of the population of those who are in prison are black men, when we are only 14% of the population. Now, look back to what I just said, because I like to jump around. That's how I do sometime in preaching. You said that it's not about us being against each other. No, I don't think purposefully we are. But purposefully, I think there are some of us who are accepting a culture that is not befitting for what we're doing. There is a difference between a misogynist and a mistake. I love that statement for a reason. I leveled that statement for a reason. A misogynist is one who's against women, who does think they have a practice of being against women. They have a practice of doing this and doing that. But then there are some men who have made a mistake. If something happened, there was a mistake. Does that make one a misogynist?
No, it may not make you a misogynist, but you have to recognize the mistake that was made.
Recognize, okay.
And work to bring about healing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You know, what happens, everyone gets so dug in.
Okay.
And I think you have two sides of a system. You have one system that focuses in on a punitive side of things,
Okay.
right? Harm was done, what's the punishment?
Okay.
Point blank, two
Okay.
steps,
All right.
right? Then you have restorative justice.
Okay.
And in that restorative justice, it's not necessarily the punishment, it's the harm that was done that you want to focus in on. And what can we do to make sure that harm is not caused again moving forward so that we can move forward? And I think that's what people need to focus in on, is hearing everything out and seeing how that harm can be addressed and how we can move forward.
Yeah. Now, with Whoopi Goldberg, for example, that was restorative justice.
Yes.
They did suspend her, but she'll be restored. She did apologize. We're going to find a way. Had Obama, President, I don't want to disrespect him. I love him dearly. Had President Obama had 5 children by 4 different women, I don't think that would have been that would not have been restorative justice.
No. I mean, when it comes to that situation, you know, you had people during then Senator Obama's first campaign in 2008 talk about, well, he's black and has the middle name Hussein, he's a Muslim.
Yeah.
Or he was born, they say he was born in Hawaii, but is Hawaii even a state? Which is crazy to me, it's the 50th state.
Yeah.
Then you had some people say, well, his dad's African, let's see his birth certificate.
Yeah.
Again, that is crazy to me.
Right.
Because we have people from all over the world. America is supposed to be AKA the melting pot, right?
Supposedly.
Then you had people either try to say Michelle Obama and Barack were not, you know, in a true relationship.
Right.
Then you have them say that maybe the kids aren't really his, or, you know, or something like that, or did he have outside kids or something like that. You didn't hear that with Trump, but also Trump owned it. Yeah, I got a bunch of kids. I had 3 different wives. He brings all his kids around, but no one said anything about it. Now, if that was a black man, and I'm just speaking from a black man's perspective as a politician, right, running for office, every little thing you do, you say, the way you look, is under a microscope. And I have friends all across this nation who've run for office, and we talk about this. We have a maybe a weekly conversation, right? And we talk about politics and talk about our elections. And my white counterparts say, "Oh, they didn't care that I wasn't married. They didn't care." I had some who didn't even graduate college, and that was fine. But when it comes to being black, you have to have the highest qualifications, no matter what.
Like you're doing right now, where Biden made the comment, which Reagan made it too, and a couple others, that the next Supreme Court justice will be a African American woman.
Right.
And they're saying, "Oh no, we want the most qualified." What makes you think because she's black she won't be the most qualified?
Exactly.
But I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's exactly where we are in the country that we live in right now.
And we're struggling with that notion, right?
Yeah.
That if my hair is not cut right, oh, he's sloppy, he doesn't care about himself, he doesn't, he shouldn't be in office. Whereas my white counterpart can have a mohawk and still get elected just fine, because that's seen as understanding, he's probably country and, stuff like that. It's 2 different worlds sometimes when it comes to perception around people's looks, and it starts with the color of your skin.
Right. Good. Well, I didn't mean to cut you off, but then the question I'm going to ask you, because we're ready to go to a break, is how do you get us to stop judging us, stop using the European system to judge us? See, it's one thing for the majority to say your haircut should be right, you should be married, you should be this, you should be that. But if they're not, it doesn't matter. When will we say, this is our standards? Now, we've always been taught, my grandmother said, you know, you got to be the best at everything you do. You got to be this, you got to be that. You can't just be mediocre, because mediocre doesn't get you nowhere as a black man. And I agree with that, and I understand it. But we are our worst critics, and this is where I am with Black History Month. When will we begin to start handling each other in a better way, more equal way?
Yeah, I think, you know, we have to break out the mindset that our standards have to appeal to white America. Our standards should appeal to us, who we are.
Yes.
We talk about, you know, we have great culture. Yes. No one can cook like us. No one can dance like us.
Got that right.
We love different. We talk different. We are different, but in a good way, right? Our hair grows different. So love that. Whether you're rocking an afro, cornrows, whatever.
Absolutely.
Love the way you are, and we have to understand we have to love each other the way we are as well too. And until we break that and truly start doing it, we're still going to have issues.
Yeah, and I'm just praying that as we go through this month of February, that we begin to think about some of the things that we are doing to each other. Black Lives Matter. I'm with it. My fist is in the air. But the question becomes how we treat each other matters too.
Right.
And I'm not concerned so much about how the white man is treating me if my brother is not treating me. Who is my neighbor? My neighbor is the one who is there with me. And that's where I want to be with Black History Month. It's not so much that I'm saying that we are so horrible people. We are the best. When God kissed us with his son, he showed how much he loved us.
Right.
Especially us dark-skinned brothers.
Yes.
He showed us how much he loved us. However, I am concerned that we have accepted the culture of the majority, and it has messed us up. We're going to come back in just a few minutes. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, Kobe, time really went quick today. We're in the most famous and I think the most powerful part of our show, which is the Kobe's Corner. You got several things you want to talk about. What's going on?
Yeah, so, you know, we are back in the midst in the new year. The General Assembly is now on break right now for JFC. So if you want to tune in, what they're going to be doing is each department is going to be making their presentations, including their public universities as well too, for their budgets for the upcoming years, whether they need extra money, where they can make cuts, and seeing how they can work. We're going to be going in with a surplus, so that's always good. That's always a good thing. But last week, Governor Carney gave his State of the State, which is a speech. It's the fifth one that he's given, and it's just a speech of where we are as a state, where his priorities are for the year. And, you know, one of the major things is how are we dealing with COVID, right?
Yeah.
Now that we're 2 years into this, he was able to feel and do this in person, which is always good. It's always interesting. They do it in the House chamber, sometime in the Senate chamber. But also, some of his key points were filling the jobs that have been vacant, not just because of the unemployment rate prior, but also looking at making sure the jobs that were vacant because of the pandemic are being refilled, right? And making sure we dropped that unemployment rate. So in April 2020, we were at about like 13.4, and we're at 5%. So we're doing a good job. We still have a long way to go. Will we ever see zero? Probably not. But we want to keep working to make sure that number is.
But I think a lot of times
possible.
people are deceived when they talk about that drop up from 13 to 5% of unemployment, because there's some people who just stopped looking for jobs.
Right.
And there was a lot of government assistance going on too. You're going to see that number probably go up again.
Yeah. The second major point was the federal money that's coming into Delaware, right, has opened up the door for new spending opportunities, modernized nonprofit buildings, upgrading libraries, increasing resources for both Wilmington and Dover gun prevention programs, and making sure they're really addressing other things, mental health services, infrastructure, climate action, and stuff like that. The third point was what businesses are coming to the state of Delaware. And probably the biggest was the tech startup, the Investor Cash Management, that was announced to be coming from Chicago to Wilmington.
You know, can you go back to your nonprofits infrastructure where they're going to be built? There's some money coming in. Help me. And if you don't have the answer, let's get it and come back. So those who are listening, so I have pastors who look at our show, and so if you're a nonprofit, is that 501c3 or nonprofit? Because the problem is we have a lot of churches that are older, need some serious repairs. The congregation has dwindled. They don't have the money to be able to do the repairs on roofs and infrastructure. Right. Will this type of money be able to be applicable to them, or should we get back to them on that?
So I will say get back to them right now. The governor hasn't rolled out the full plan yet, but that is one of his initiatives. He looks to see how he can technically spend that money for nonprofits, because he understands, one, with climate and everything, a lot of buildings have just taken a beating, especially these last few years, to see how we can get them help that they need so that they don't have to do huge capital improvement projects.
Well, I would say to IMAC, and I would say to all of you ministers out there, one of the things I admired about the evangelicals, I am not a fan of theirs anymore. I used to be, but ever since Trump, I'm no longer. But one of the things I give the evangelicals credit for is that when there was an issue dealing with the preachers, they stayed in front of Congress and the Senate and got everything they wanted. I think you need to be sending in a letter or whatever, since they like to visit our churches on Sunday, saying include in your budget of nonprofits the houses of worship, so that those who need some serious repairs will be able to get those repairs done. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. So what I was saying was the Investor Cash Management, they're coming here from Chicago to Wilmington. They're looking to invest $15 million in downtown Wilmington for their new headquarters, and they're looking to bring almost 400 new jobs here to the city of Wilmington and to the state. Financial management jobs. Okay. So that's
University
a little different.
level.
University level, yeah. Also, Preclude Therapeutics, which is an innovative cancer treatment research facility, just signed a 13-year lease for a new headquarters at the DuPont Old Chester Run campus. Okay. So getting, a dilapidated area, getting that up and running again. And then looking at some of the biopharmaceutical company that are looking to increase their size and bring almost 500 new employees here. So again, that goes back to the first point, filling jobs, bringing jobs, and looking and highlighting the new businesses that are coming to the city of Wilmington.
Now, I want you to do something for my viewers, because I got people who are watching and saying, what about the port? There were promises made.
Yeah.
Everything you've given me, it appears that it's for the college level people. Where are the blue collar jobs? That's what's needed for our community right now. Not that and I don't want nobody, don't send me no note talking about we educated too. I know. But there's a nice portion of us who are in the community who are not college trained or university prepared. Where are those blue collar jobs, especially at the port?
Right. He really didn't touch on that.
I know.
But that's a conversation that needs to, really get going and bring to his focus for him. The fourth point, right, is the new school construction and pushing for ramping up in Wilmington schools, reamping Wilmington schools. So first, he's saying over the next 2 years, he's putting $300 million into construction projects for new schools in the city of Wilmington, Dover, and Georgetown. Okay. The one right now in Wilmington, the new Bancroft project, is going to come out to be about $85 million, with 50 to about 60 million being construction fees, and the rest is like filling, getting the classroom stuff and books and stuff like that. So he is really looking to build some new
Bancroft
buildings.
over here,
Yes.
in the city, that's an elementary school, am I correct?
It is,
okay.
yes. So what they're going to do there, they're going to tear down the administrative offices across the street from the school first. That's where the new school is going to go. And then once that's complete, they're going to tear down the old school and make that like fields, play area, and stuff like that. Yeah. So that is really good. He also honed in and advocated on the Wilmington Learning Collaborative, which he's been pushing for the last few months, working with both the Red Clay, Christina, and Brandywine school districts to kind of give more power to city residents over the education system. Having the board reps a part of it, parents, city council, the mayor's administration, having everyone a part of it, working together to ensure our students are getting what they need. So there's been a lot of discussion around that. Christina School District just passed their MOU, their resolution to start crafting an MOU. They're still waiting on Brandywine and Red Clay at the current moment that we're in. And then another point, and this is going to take me to my next point I want to talk about as well too, is the governor signaled his support for paid leave, which is a bill that Sarah McBride had campaigned on, and she's kind of been crafting SB1 since the beginning of her tenure down there. And really what that does was it will create a statewide paid family and medical leave insurance program, and Governor Carney, business leaders were initially hesitant of this, but Sarah McBride, I think, has done a good job of working with different stakeholders, especially those in the business community, in the governor's office, and in her own chamber of the Senate to garner that support for it. And the bill was actually revised and introduced, and it just passed the committee after getting feedback from individuals and stakeholders like that. So that was a huge win for all the advocates who've been working on that. And Senator McBride, the first version was introduced in last May.
Okay.
And it kind of stalled out. The revised has already passed the committee, now waits for a full vote. And like I said, it will create a paid family leave and medical leave insurance program paid for by payroll contributions for certain life events such as serious illness, a new child, adjustment to military deployment, and people could receive up to 80% of their average weekly wages. So that is huge, especially for people who are living paycheck to paycheck, to make sure that they're getting the proper funds they need when a life incident may happen. So that is, going to be talked about, debated about a little bit longer, but hopefully that passes the Senate and the House relatively sooner than later. Also, DEMRAC has released that they are seeking public input for the Water Trust and Priorities and Wilmington Water Trust Project and Priorities. They are looking for people to come to the Oversight Committee. The next meeting is February 7th, and we'll put the link to it up on the screen. But it's de.gov/DENRAC meetings, and that's where you go to sign up for this. And then they're going to be talking about almost $50 million in fiscal year 2022 funding to water sources, water quality, and water-related program and management. So if you are interested in that and you want to know more about that, feel free to sign up for the meeting. Again, the next meeting is February 7th. Lastly, I want to follow up because we've been talking about voting rights. We've been talking about Build Back Better. We've been talking about the president's agenda, the Supreme Court nomination. Nothing's going to happen in February. Unfortunately, when you have a 50-50 split in the Senate, you're one heartbeat away from your agenda being derailed. And earlier this week, Senator Ben Ray Lujan suffered a stroke. He's 49 years old. He's a Democrat from New Mexico. And he was having some shortness of breath, having issues, checked himself into the hospital. They initially didn't find anything wrong, and then he suffered a stroke while in the hospital. So he is still recovering. He will probably be recovering for the next month, maybe even longer. There's no timetable for him to come back. But until he comes back, Democrats probably don't have the votes for any major legislation to get done. Now, what could happen, and this has happened multiple times, Senator Coons has been someone who's done this in the past as well too, is you can pair your vote. And what that means is if one of the Republicans have a good enough humanity and says, look, we understand what's going on with Ben, Senator Lujan. I will vote present or I won't vote at all. Well, no voting present whatsoever. And pair my vote with him since he can't be here. Then it goes back to a 49-49 split.
Okay.
Right? And they can rotate out if they want to.
Right.
Senator Coons did this before when it came to a senator on a committee he shared, couldn't be there. So therefore, he paired his vote. Lisa Murkowski has done this as well too. So it's not uncommon. Hopefully one of the GOP senators find it in their heart to pair their vote for this. So
I still think there's two GOPs that are not bought.
Yeah. And again, Lisa Murkowski is probably the top target for us for this, so that everything isn't derailed and so things can start getting back on track.
Now, can the governor appoint an emergency person, or they cannot do that?
No, only if the senator was to resign or unfortunately pass away.
Okay.
Can the governor appoint? And I'm not 100% sure if the governor makes the appointment there or if it just stays vacant. Each state's a little different. For Delaware, if there was a vacancy in our Senate seat, the governor could appoint someone and it would trigger a special election for the next regular scheduled general election.
Understood. Okay.
So that is all I have. Again, everything's going to be stalled out for a while. And what we're going to do, that gives us time to rebuild, re-energize, and get people mobilized again. I think there's a lot of burnout going on right now, especially amongst the voting rights organizations. So this gives us a month of healing, a month of taking time to re-strategize and see where we're going.
I heard something, and I said I was going to ask you about this on the show today, and you give me your opinion. There's a new strategy out. They want to see how there are in red states where Democrats cannot win, but yet they voted against Trump, and Trump have put somebody up to run against them. What they're saying is it would be wise, that happened here in Wilmington where the Republicans helped the Democratic person, it would be wise for the Democrats to go and help to save democracy, to vote for the Republican to try to keep them in office. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, you see that in states like Alaska and other states like that, where you're going to see a lot of Democrats switch over to vote for Lisa Murkowski, right, to make sure she stays in against a former Fox News anchor that Trump's backing there. In some of these other races, I don't think you're going to see that because while they may agree on impeachment and stuff like that, the person who still holds that seat is against a lot of the values and ideas of the Democratic Party that these voters want to see. If you look at who's passing the voting rights, who's passing, the infrastructure bill, it's not really the Republicans who voted against Trump. They're still
Well, Cole, it has been a wonderful day today, and you are doing a very good job, phenomenal job. Our brother Jay, we gave him off this month because he was on the show so many weeks that I just knew that his Geritol was running out. So I gave him so we gave him off for this month, but we're going to bring him right back in so that he can come in and bring the issues that certainly is close, near, and dear to his heart. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who continue to watch us and continue to be a part of our family as it relates to The Source. Any other comments from you, Brother Cole?
No, happy Black History Month to everyone out there. Please look at things that we don't usually learn during this month, right? We talk a lot about Dr. King, John Lewis, but look at those individuals who made huge impacts here in the state of Delaware. Look at Lewis Redding. Look at Herman Holloway Sr. There's so many people out there that had a huge impact on Delaware that was elevated to a national level right here in the first state.
Yeah, and if you watch our what is the other show called Coffee with Curry that comes on 11 o'clock on Sundays, you will see that that's exactly what I'm doing for the month of February. We started off with Pastor Clifton Johnson, who is the pastor of the oldest Baptist church here in the city. Next week, we're going to be dealing with Dr. Livingston, who is going to help us with all of those political people. We got Herman Holloway Jr. going to come on to talk about his father. We got the first black mayor for the city of Wilmington. So it's going to be a whole lot of I decided to stay local, and let's learn something new. But I'm going to tell you who you really should learn. Those individuals in your community who work very hard, who have done all they could to raise their families and to be a stellar citizen in the community in which you live. I want to take this opportunity to thank you again. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.